There we go. Hey, this is Video Diary Chapter 4. My experience in the beautiful city. Well, as I was telling you, I got my call in the Golden City. I went to the beautiful city. Now, I don't remember every single detail of everything that happened there, but I remember quite a few things. And this is one of the things the Lord told me would be. He told me at one point that I would not remember everything, but that I would remember enough. So I'm going to speak on the things that I remember. In my experience, I've been to heaven and earth. I'm still on the earth again. I think that the part of heaven that I was in is probably paradise, but it's the kingdom of heaven in any case. Have I been to the upper heaven? I think maybe at origin, but I don't remember. I don't know everything about heaven except where I was. So let me start with this. I got my call, and there was some training that happened, and I don't remember all about that. But I do remember that Jesus took me and Elvis before he was Presley. By the way, he's always been Elvis that I could tell. I've known him before he was Presley, and he placed us in our mother's womb. And he was telling us that we were going to be the kings of country and rock and roll. And he also was explaining something about where the music comes from, but I can't remember what exactly he said about that. But I just remember he was telling us. And he tucked us into our bodies in the womb of our mother. And Elvis and I could communicate back and forth. And during this time, Elvis and I would sing and talk, and we talk about the brotherhood, and we talk about making sure that we did something for our Jewish brothers, and he did. Praise God. And anyway, we would talk back and forth and sing back and forth, and he would sing and I would sing, and like one of the conversations went like about like this. He would sing a song and I'd say, "Yeah, brother, I like that, but I like it like this." And then I would sing. And he'd say, "Yeah, yeah, brother, that's good, but do it like this." And then he would sing. Anyway, one day I got it in I was teasing him. I said, "Brother, I'm going to be Elvis." He said, "No, no, no, brother, I'm going to be Elvis." I said, "Oh, no, no, but I'm going to be the king of rock and roll." He said, "Oh, no, no, brother, I'm going to be the king of rock and roll." I said, "Okay." I said, "No, no, 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 brother. I'm gonna be the king of rock and roll. You're gonna be the king of country." He said, "Oh, no, 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 brother. You're gonna be the king of country, and I'm gonna be the king of rock and roll." So I said, "Okay, brother. Well, I tell you what, brother. Let's do it together. Let's both be the kings of country and rock and roll." He said, "Okay." Anyway, we would be singing back and forth and talking back and forth, and I was not resting like I should have been. I suppose because the Lord twice popped his head in there, his face, and told me specifically, "Rest." And I did. For a little bit, and then of course I had to talk with Elvis, and then we'd do that again, and then sometime later he just popped his head back in there again. "Rest." I did for a little bit. And then Elvis and I were popping back and forth, talking and singing and different stuff. And then I started phasing out, like I'd go out, like I passed out. I come back in, and I wasn't sure what was happening there, but I began to think that I wasn't going to make it. So when I came back in at one point, I told Elvis, I said, "Brother, I don't think I'm going to make it." And then I went out, and I came back in, and Elvis, I said, "I'm back, brother." And he said, "Well, brother, look, if you're not going to make it, Why don't you give me your music power and I will do it for the both of us? And I was like, I don't want to. I thought to myself, I don't really want to. I didn't want to do that. But I didn't think I was going to make it. I was sure I wasn't going to make it. So I thought to myself, well, I'll just go ahead and do it. So I reached up and I touched Elvis on the forehead and gave him my music power. Now, he had both his music power and my music power. And shortly after that, pop, I'm back with the Lord. Apparently, I died. And then the Lord told me that we're going to do this again. And I was like, okay. So now this next brother, I had no idea who it was. All I knew is I had a brother and was twin again in another womb of a mother. And I had no idea who it was. All I knew was it was really tight in there. And I was uncomfortable. And I would move around and try to stretch a little bit. And my brother that was with me would move around, try to stretch a little bit. And we both did that several times. After a while, though, I stretched. I just had to stretch. And I stretched out, and then my brother stretched out, and pop! I think I broke my neck. Anyway, I was back with the Lord again. Pop! There's the Lord. And he said, we're going to do this again. I'm like, no, please no. I'm too tired. He said, all right. And he picked me up in his arms, and he carried me to a garden. And he sat me down in the grass next to what looked like was a music stand of sorts. It had a guitar sitting there, and there was other houses around and stuff. Anyway, I started exploring a little bit, and he showed me where my place was. And but he told me, he said, "Look, you never have to leave." I'm like, okay. Well, then I started learning guitar. I picked that guitar up, and I didn't know how to. I wasn't sure how to play it, and plunking on the string, and here come the Lord. He said, "Here, do this," and he showed me how to go with your fingers. Uh, you know how they practice the frets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, and going back and forth on the string. And I just did that, I don't know for how long. I did it a long time. Just right there at what they call the nut. I think that's where they call the nut. And where the strings end right there on the guitar. I can show you, but it's the last fret. It's where the strings go over to be tuned to the tuner. Anyway, I believe that's called the nut. Anyway, I was doing that, and the Lord, he come along and he says, you can go up the neck with that. I'm like, oh. I didn't think. So I started doing that. And I did it for, I don't know, a long time. And then one day the Lord came along and he said, come with me. And so I followed him, and I don't know how he does this travel thing, but we went somewhere where people were playing blues. He said, now, he's standing there and he says, now just listen. So I listened. And then after a while, he said, now see if you can play along. So I did. And this trip happened several times. He'd come and get me, he'd take me to the same place and listen to the music and play along. I even had some interaction with the people that were playing, nods and things like this. Anyway, that was one of my experiences there, where I was learning guitar, learning to play along with others and things like this. Then, let's see, what would be the next thing? Well, there was several things that happened there. Okay, one time I was in my music stand, and well, this was a test. This time, I was watching a fella just outside of my music stand, and he was practicing with a spear, and he had this bullet-like helmet on that came down on his nose like that. Anyway, and he had little wings on the either side. And he came up to me, and he looked up at me, and he said, because he was kind of short, that I was. He told me I've been called to chambers, and I said, "Well, okay. How do I get there?" And he showed me the way. So I went, and in correlation to where chambers was in the city would be the Chamber of Commerce or the city building in Dunsmuir, California. I went in there, and Dunsmuir has a fountain, okay, and this was like that fountain in Dunsmuir, inside this. Okay, I'm getting ahead. When I walked in, there was a throne here, and Jesus was sitting in it, and there was a couple others over here. And I walked up to him, and he said, he leaned down towards me, and he told me, "Now I want to go stand in front of that." It was like a fountain. Okay, so I walked over there, and I was facing the fountain. Then I turned my back to the fountain, and was facing the people, the guys that were there, the Lord, and he was facing this way, and they were facing this way. Well, anyway. At that point, something picked me up, okay, and brought me over that I guess fountain, and turned me over. And then Jesus walked up beside me. He said, "Now, I want you to focus on our love. Focus on me. Focus on our love." I said, "Okay." And then he walked back, and then pretty soon, boom, I was being shaken and flipped and moving all around. I had no control of it whatsoever. I was just, and it was kind of scary. So it was startled me and scared me a little bit. So I kept my focus on him, on our love. And I saw this fountain under me. It looks like the fountain in Dunsmuir, okay, but it was black inside. It was kind of scared me. I didn't know what it was about. And anyway, so I stopped looking at that, and I kept my focus on Jesus and our love. And I was flipped every which way but loose, man. And it was intense. And then pretty soon, smooth. And then a little more flipping on, smooth. And then it stayed that way. And then pretty soon he flipped me over and sat me back down on my feet. And the person that was standing there and greeting me when I was done was King David. And Jesus was sitting in that throne, and King David was smiling, and I asked him, "Did I pass?" He said, "You passed." And I was like, cool. But King David, he has red hair, freckles, sharp beard. He's a sharp beard. It's not like a big full beard like this. It's very sharp and narrow, and like that. And he's not very tall. And so I walked over towards Jesus, and he leaned over off of his throne, and he told me I could go back to the garden or my music stand, wherever. And I said, okay. And that was the end of that test. He also told me that I would not understand what it was about, but I would later. Do I understand what it was about? Maybe. I'm not sure. I think the idea was focusing on him, focusing on our love, and through whatever's going on. Anyway, so I went back to the music stand, and sometime later, I was doing something with music, and then Jesus he came to my music stand, and a couple of things happened. This one time, I think it was a judgment, okay, because he said, "You should not have done that." I didn't know what he was talking about. Anyway, so whatever it was, he turned his back towards me, placed his foot this way, one this way, his back towards me, folded his arms, And I'm looking at him, what is this about? And then after a bit, he turned back towards me like this, and he said, "Follow me." He also told me then I wouldn't understand what that was about, but I would later. I got a pretty good idea what that was about. It's called sin. Anyway, he I followed him. Now, where my music stand is in correlation to Dunsmuir, it is Belknap Fountain, which is on, I believe, Cedar Street. And there's a hill, and the fire department is right here on the top, the old jail and everything. And then down below, there's an old market down there called, what was used to be called S&J Market. Well, that's where Abundant Life Family Church is today. It's been there for a few years. And we walked down the street and then turned towards the building at the end, and the wall opened up. And Jesus stepped through, and then I stepped through. And there was this big old tall fella standing there, and his name is John Rader, pastor of Abundant Life Family Church. And Jesus was explaining that we knew each other, but at this time he doesn't like me very much. And so right away I'm going to bite his kneecap. And Jesus stopped me. He said, no, don't do that. Okay. He said he was telling me that this thing that was going on between John and I was probably more likely my fault because of things that I had done and said. Then I was like, okay. Then he said, now go look around. And I went, looked around, and I looked at the window shades, and I looked at the cross with the crown of thorns, and I came back up through, and I saw the tapestries on the back wall and everything like that, the way it is right now. And then we left. Then I'm up in my music stand, and one day, and the Lord came along, and he said, "Do you know who I am?" I said, "Well, yeah, you're him himself." That's what I said. Him himself. And he told me there's something going on in the garden. And I looked towards the garden, and I looked back at him. And he said, "But don't worry, I got it under control." I'm like, "Oh." And then I was, I'm going to do music, whatever. And he said, "Golden, I want to ask you something. I want to know if you go on a mission for me." I said, "Well, yeah, I'll do whatever you say, whatever you want." And he said, "Are you sure? It won't be easy. You don't have to. It won't be easy, and you won't like it very much." I was like, "Okay, I'll do whatever you say, whatever you want." And he said, "All right." And he clapped his hands together, and he said, "Here's the plan. I want you to write music. I want you to hide our way and our love in it. And I want you to write it so that you remember it." Okay. And then he told me, started laying out the plan for me. Do I remember everything he told me? I'm not sure. But I remember certain things that he told me. For one, he told me, "I'm going to put you to sleep in 3, and then I'm going to wake you in 40. But I'm going to wake you from time to time and show you things and put you back to sleep. And then I'm going to wake you up all the way, and you can stay that way." Well, that's happened. And so I was writing music. I wrote a bunch of them. I don't remember all of them, but I know them when I hear them. And the 2 specific ones that I actually remember for sure, without a doubt, is Fame and I Write the Songs. Well, after he told me not to play in the garden until my work is done. See, because I used to go out when Katrina and I would fly and play games, hide and seek or seek and find, and I see you and things like this. And we would dance in the garden, whatever. We were just having a great old time. And this particular time, when I was done with my work, when I was done with a piece, I would give it to Katrina because the Lord told me, when you're done with a piece, give it to Katrina. She knows where it goes. So I gave it to Katrina, and she took it wherever it went. And these songs are hits, okay, from mostly from the 70s. I may have some later ones, I'm not sure. All I know is I know them when I hear them. And I don't get no credit for them here on the earth, okay? Not, and I'm not expecting any. But during these times, like for instance, when I wrote Fame, I was introduced to Irene Cara, and the Lord told me she's going to perform the song. And I said, "Are you sure?" And she was like, and I was like, "Oh, okay, okay." Because it was my song, and I really wanted to perform it. I was, it's your baby. But I'm glad she performed it. She did a wonderful job on it. I would look funny in that crazy outfit she was wearing, right? You know what I'm saying? But she did a wonderful, beautiful job with the song. And then Barry Manilow, when I was done with I write the songs, we had it on a scrolling machine. And Barry was over here playing a piano, and he walked over towards me, and the Lord was standing right here, and I'm scrolling on this machine, going over the song. I write the songs. So Barry was standing with me, and he asked me while we were doing that, "Is there anything specific that you want me to do?" I said, "No, no, the song is perfect. The only thing I could think of was just make sure," I told him, I said, "just make sure the ending is strong." And so, and he did. He did. I don't know if you've ever heard the song I Write the Songs, but it was a beautiful song. It's a beautiful song, and he did a beautiful job. Thank you, Barry, and thank you, Irene. Now, I get no credit for these songs on the earth, none whatsoever. I don't even know what's going to happen about it in heaven. It doesn't matter. They were given for a purpose and a reason. The song Fame is all about my experience and what I was going to do and what's going to happen with me. I'm going to make it to heaven. I'm going to learn how to fly. I actually know how to fly. I mean, I don't fly in this body, of course. It's too heavy for one thing. And it doesn't have wings, so it's a little hard to fly. You have to get into an airplane, Anyway, so the song Fame is in I Write Songs, these are remember songs. Okay, now I'm done with my work. I'll go into more detail with that in another video. But, and I'll explain the songs better. But the next thing I know, we were done.